There are these companies that are so deeply woven into the fabric of our world that we never even see them. They're not the app on your phone's home screen, but they are in your phone. They're not the car you drive, but they are absolutely essential to that car. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on one of the most powerful and honestly misunderstood industrial giants on the entire planet.
So let me ask you this. What single company, a company that's nearly 100 years old, forms the literal foundation of our physical world? We're talking pipes, window frames, and also the flawless digital bedrock for things like, say, artificial intelligence? And just to make things a little more interesting, this quiet $80 billion giant is, right now, making the single largest investment in its entire history. It's a multi-billion-dollar bet that has the market completely divided. So what is this company? And what is this massive bet all about?
All right, the company we're talking about is Shin-Etsu Chemical. It was founded in Japan way back in 1926. And look, this is not your typical commodity chemical business. This is an absolute powerhouse that has been quietly dominating critical global supply chains for decades. So what's their secret? Well, it's something you almost never see. They have a dominant, simultaneous position in two completely different, totally essential global markets. It creates what's known as a double monopoly.
Okay, let's start with the digital side of things. Shin-Etsu is the world's #1 producer of silicon wafers. And these aren't just any wafers. We're talking about hyper-pure, perfectly flat disks of silicon. They are the physical foundation that every single advanced semiconductor is built on, from the chip in your laptop to the NVIDIA GPUs that are powering the whole AI revolution. But here's the thing. Their advantage goes so much deeper than just market share. First off, they co-developed the wafer specs with giants like TSMC and Intel years in advance. Then, they achieve these levels of purity and flatness that are just almost impossibly difficult. And all of that, it creates a technological lock-in. For a company like Intel to just switch its wafer supplier, that's a multi-year, hugely risky decision. It makes Shin-Etsu pretty much irreplaceable. And this is where the story gets really fascinating. Because all that high-tech dominance, that's only one side of the coin. Shin-Etsu, through its U.S. subsidiary Shintech, is also the world's largest producer of PVC, that rugged, super versatile plastic that's used in everything from construction pipes to window frames. And they don't just make PVC. They make it with an unbeatable structural advantage. I mean, just look at the comparison here. While their competitors in Asia and Europe are stuck using expensive, oil-based materials, Shintech gets to use cheap U.S. natural gas. They control the entire process, from the raw material all the way to the final product. And, this is the kicker, they do it with a special large reactor process that they stopped licensing out over 20 years ago. Literally, nobody can copy it. So you've got this incredible, stable, dual monopoly, right? You'd think Shin-Etsu would just play it safe, sit back, and enjoy the profits. But instead, they're making a move that puts a huge question mark over everything. A massive bet that's going to define their next decade. The scale of this bet is it's staggering. We are talking about $3.4 billion. It is the largest single expansion project in the company's entire history, and it's all going into doubling down on their PVC advantage in Louisiana. So is this a brilliant move, or is it a massive risk? The arguments are really clear on both sides. On the one hand, the bulls, they point to Shin-Etsu's perfect track record. They've done this 7 times before and nailed it every time. They say this move just deepens their cost advantage, right when the market's expected to recover around 2030. But on the other hand, the bears are pointing out that the PVC market is currently flooded with cheap supply from China. Shin-Etsu's own profit margins are getting squeezed, and this is a 4-year investment with 0 immediate payoff. And all of this, it brings us right to the central dilemma for anyone looking at Shin-Etsu today. It's a classic financial puzzle known as the quality trap. And to really get this, you just have to look at the numbers. At its recent peak, the company was pulling in these incredible operating margins of over 35%. But more recently, that's been squeezed down to about 25.5%. Now look, that's still fantastic for a chemical company, but it's the direction of travel that has everyone concerned. So what exactly is a quality trap? Well, think of it like this. You've got an undeniably excellent company, but its growth is slowing down. And because everyone already knows it's an excellent company, they've bid up the stock price to a premium. The risk isn't that the business is going to suddenly collapse. Of course not. The real risk is that the stock price just goes nowhere for years, as that high valuation bumps up against very modest growth. Honestly, this insight from our source material just absolutely nails it. The market is pricing the stock as if a big recovery is right around the corner, a recovery the numbers just don't show yet. The biggest danger for Shin-Etsu isn't that it's going to become a bad company. It's that it might just be a great company that's too expensive right now.
So where does that leave us? I mean, how do we weigh this undeniable quality against these very, very real risks? For me, the verdict comes down to one single idea. This is a durable compounder, not some explosive growth stock. I mean, let's not lose sight of the fundamentals here because they are truly immense. You have that irreplicable double monopoly we talked about. You have proprietary technology that competitors literally cannot get their hands on. Then you've got a 35-year streak of growing its dividend, huge share buybacks, and a balance sheet that's basically a fortress. This is a business built to last.
But, we have to be realistic and balance that strength with the risks. That PVC oversupply from China, that is a real persistent threat. The pressure on margins is already showing up in the numbers. That quality trap is the big question hanging over the stock. And a slow recovery in the chip market could delay the rebound that everyone is banking on. All of this leads to a final and, I think, crucial question. This company has thrived since 1926 by prioritizing long-term strength over short-term flash. It underpins our homes, it underpins our entire digital world. In a market that is obsessed with finding the next big thing, the next rocket ship, maybe the most powerful, most underestimated quality a company can have is simply being unbreakable.